Hi, I'm Mike Stephen and this is Gear Up. Today we're going to talk about what happens when your chain fails out on the trail. Well, you're going to need a couple tools out there. One thing that you're going to need is you're going to need a chain brake. You're going to need a small tool like this to pull the chain off, or you're going to have a master link on the chain, which looks like this. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to show you how to remove a chain off a bike with a master link. We're going to come over to this bike. One of the first things that you're going to do is you're going to shift down into this very bottom gear. The reason why is it's easiest to take the chain off and put the chain back on with the least amount of tension on the chain, which means the smallest gear. So we're going to shift it down into that gear. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to locate the master link. So I find just by spinning it backwards, the master link is quite obvious. It has a much more open spot around the pin. You can use a variety of tools. If your fingers are strong enough, you can do that. I'm a cheater. I've got a master link plier, which is absolutely fantastic because it turns this job into probably a 2 to 3 minute job of really working that link off into a 2-second job. So I'm going to insert the plier into the chain at the master link, and I'm going to pinch it together. That's going to draw the links together, and I'm going to separate the chain. I'm going to pull the master link off at this point so that you don't lose it. And basically you can see the chain is coming off all by itself. So just feed it off as if you're riding right through the derailleur. It's going to come over the top, and here it is. So now you've got your chain off the bike. The most common problems with a chain are a kinked link. So you've shifted too aggressively and it's bound and created a kinked link. If you look at this chunk of chain is not moving smoothly. It's got some problems. So I've got a damaged link here that we're going to show you how to remove and how to get you back onto the trail. The other thing that can happen is you can actually break your chain. So if you break your chain, obviously the removal part, we don't have to worry about. It's already come off the bike. Now you need to get back and going. So the first thing that you're going to do if you have a damaged link is remove the damaged portion of the chain. For that, you will need a chain tool. If you look at the chain tool, you're going to see that there's 2 sets of pins on it. The first set of pins is designed to drive the link out. The second set of pins is designed to space the link so that it moves freely. What most people do these days is just cut the chain and use a master link. Master links are very easy to use. So what you need is you need 2 female sections of chain. And I'll show you what that means. So we're going to start to remove the damaged link. So if you look right here, there's the damaged link. I'm going to remove it at this section right here, which is, again, what I said, a female section. And what you'll notice is I'm going to put the chain into the tool, make sure it's all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to start to drive the pin out. In this scenario, we're going to drive the pin completely out of the chain. If you're reattaching without a master link, you'd only drive it until it enters the second outer plate. The first outer plate you would have driven initially, and the second outer plate is on the outside. It gets significantly harder through the plates. So that's how you know when you're starting to go through the second plate. Because right now we're just in the middle. Now it's starting to get harder again, and I'm going through the second plate. Now the pin is completely free. So that's your little chain pin that holds your chain together. So now I spoke about a female link. The female link looks like this. So it's just a piece like that. The male link would have the plates on the outside. So now we're going to go again back to another female link, the closest one that we can that isn't damaged. And it looks like this one is still fine, so we're going to drive this pin out. Again, settling it right down into the chain tool, pushing it right to the bottom, making sure that the pin lines up squarely in the center. And it takes a little bit of force to get through the first side, and then you can feel it drive through the center where there's virtually no force. And then once you start to engage that second plate, and what you do, I'll show you real quickly, what you do if you weren't using a master link is you'd back it out right now and you'd actually break the chain apart. So the pin is still in the chain, allowing you to use that and attach that to another female section like so. Then you drive the pin back through. But we're going to show a master link, and this is the damaged section, so we're going to take that out. So that's the damaged piece of the chain. So in total, we've lost about 3 links of chain here. So that's going to go into the garbage. So you're going to throw that in your Camelback to bring back home. And it's quite simple. You add 1 piece of the master link into the front plate, 1 into the rear. You take it and you clip it together. You're going to see that there's a hole that it goes together where it's too short, and then you're going to pull it into place. A lot of times, you won't be able to pull it with just your fingers, but you can use the drivetrain to actually pull it into place. And I'll show you that when I reinstall this chain onto the bike there. But that now you have a piece of chain that's working properly. The damaged little chunk is cut out. A lot of times people will say, well, you're missing a piece of your bike. Is that going to be a problem? Well, if your chain is really tight to start out with, you may not be able to get into your top gear, your biggest gear in the back. The reason being is that you're missing some chain. But the derailleur, which is this piece of the bike over here, is designed to suck slop out of the chain. So if you look at how much range of movement this has, the chain usually can afford to lose 2 to 3 links and work perfectly. So we're going to reinstall the chain at this point. I find the easiest way to do it is do the hard part first. And the hard part is the back. If you remember, we shifted down into the easiest gear on this bicycle. Or sorry, the hardest gear, which is the smallest gear. So we shifted down there. And the reason why that's important is because it's got the least amount of slack in the chain, and also you know where the chain is in reference with the derailleur, so it makes it a lot easier to put back on. So as we feed this through, we're going to go around the wheel, then we're going to go around the first guide pulley. And then what I find easiest to do at this point is to flip the chain down and let gravity let the chain fall down. I don't know how well you can see that, but gravity is kind of letting the chain fall down. I'm having to hold it because there's obviously a whole bunch of chain here. At this point, I'm just going to rest this up onto the front. You know what? I'm not going to worry about that right now. Continue to feed it around the second pulley wheel. And you can even keep it off to the side. It'll give you a little bit more chain. Now you've got to add that master link back into the system. So I'm going to grab my master link. Just like we did on that small chunk, you're going to put 1 plate facing in, 1 plate facing out. So I'll put the second one facing out. And you're going to take the chain and join it. You're going to make sure that you push hard enough together that the pins are inside of the master link and clipping inside. So you can see the way it's not fully closed. And I don't know if you remember, I said that you can do it by cranking on the chain. I'm going to show you how that's done. The master link's down here at this point in time. I'm going to put it up onto the chain ring. Let's hope we have better luck now. There we go. We have better luck when we're focused on it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the master link, which is positioned here. I'm going to spin it around to the top. You can see the way it's not fully joined, so it's having some problems getting around that chain wheel, but it gets around it. And then all you do is you take your hand, you hold the rear wheel, and you pedal forward. Now you heard it click into place. That's probably the easiest way to put the master link or retension the master link. Now the chain is working perfectly, and you're back on the trail to finish off your ride. You know what? There's a lot of little simple things that you can do to make sure that you have fun out there on your bike and you can take care of yourself out there on your bike. Pop into your local bike shop. They'll show you the tools that you'll need to repair a chain, repair a flat, the simple things that might happen to you out on a trail ride. And then that way you can fix, repair, and continue on with the ride versus having to bail on your ride. You know what? This has been another episode of Gear Up. Thanks for watching. I'm Mike Stephen, and this is Gear Up. We've talked a lot about tubeless, but we haven't talked about how to make your bike tubeless. A lot of people get worried about how difficult it's going to be, what happens if you get a flat out on the trail, all sorts of different things. There's just a lot of unknown with tubeless. What we're going to try to do is demystify a little bit of that here on today's episode. So first thing first, you need to get your tire off your bike. Once your tire is off your bike, you're going to deflate the tire completely, because all you're going to do at this point is you're going to take the tube that's existing out of the system. So we're going to pull that off. What you're going to use is you're going to use a tire lever to do that. The tire lever hooks under the bead of the rim once you've broken it free. So break it free. Then hook the tire lever underneath the bead of the rim, and you can pull it along like a knife. Sometimes it's really, really tight and you have to use two tire levers. One, hook it onto the spoke, and then use another one and then keep trading them out. Luckily with this one, it was quite an easy rim bead to break. Next up, we're gonna pull the tube out of the system. So we're gonna take this tube, and what you can do with the tube is deflate it, roll it up, and use it as a spare tube. Because if you do get a flat out on the trails, what you can do is you can actually put your tube back in. So what goes into this system is a material called stand sealant. And the stand sealant is designed to plug any micro holes. If there happens to be a big slash in the sidewall, something like that, you're going to need to reinforce the tire from the inside. You can use anything from a Cliff Bar wrapper to something that's designed to do that called a tire boot. Park Tools makes them, and you can stick it onto the inside of the tire to stop the tire from bleeding out the tube, and the tube forcing through that as you begin to inflate. So save this tube, throw it in your Camelback. It'll get you out of the woods if you have a really bad tire catastrophe. So what we've got going on here is we've got a tube out of the tire. The thing that has to change here is running to a tubeless valve stem. So running to a tubeless valve stem is just a piece like this. So instead of a valve stem with a tube attached to it, this is a valve stem that's just going to seal into the system. So we got to find our valve hole, which is right at the top of my finger here. We're going to put that in. What I should mention at this point is you do need tubeless rim tape. This wheel is already ready with tubeless rim tape. Tubeless rim tape is a material that you would seal up the rim with, all the spoke holes, all that, to not allow the sealant to go into the spoke holes and come out the spokes. So you want to use some sort of tape on the rim. Like I said, this one's already done, and most of the current bikes, current mid-level to high-end, should come with a rim tape that's suitable to just go ahead and tubeless it right off the bat. So you're going to have to check that out. That's going to be one little piece that you'll have to figure out whether your rim tape is tubeless ready or not. So next, you're going to snug that valve stem right into place. So again, instead of a tube in there, you've just transposed and you've put a valve stem into there. I'm going to set this down just for a second, and we're going to move to the sealant. So one of the things to know about this sealant is you want to give it a good shake. The reason why is because there's all sorts of different sizes of crystals in here, and you want to have all the different sizes in the syringe when I draw 2 ounces out. 2 ounces is what they recommend for a standard wheel. If you're a plus size wheel or a fat bike or something like that, you're going to need to use more stands. But for this scenario, we're going to use 2 ounces. This syringe happens to be exactly 2 ounces. So I'm going to draw 2 ounces into the syringe. Just going to bleed some of the air out first, so we can get a nice accurate 2 ounces. There we go. So now that we have 2 ounces into the syringe, we're going to simply dump that fluid into the tube, or sorry, into the tire. We're going to dump that So now we have a couple of ounces of fluid sitting in the bottom of the tire. As you can see, it's a little bit messy. With Stan's sealant, you want to try not to get it on your clothing. The reason why is it does the exact same thing it does to a tire to your clothes. It goes in and fills all the micropores in your clothing, and then it's like a latex stain, a white latex stain, so it just won't come out. So now what I'm doing is I'm seating the rim bead all the way around. The hardest part to running a tubeless system is getting the initial seal. And the initial seal is going to happen once I get this tire on, again using a tire lever and working my way around the tire. You can see I'm holding with my left hand and I'm prying with my right hand as I move around. Now that I've got this, the tire completely on the rim, the hardest point, like I said, is getting this tire to inflate and air not come out past the rim. So at this point in time, we have a valve in here. We have your tire on the rim. We've made sure that the rim is taped for tubeless. And now we're gonna go ahead and add air. So again, I'm just gonna set this down here. I'm gonna go grab my air hose. So, again, we're gonna make sure that the valve stem is nice and open. We're gonna put the air chuck onto the stem, and we're gonna start to add some air. You hear that popping noise? That means it's beating. And I'm gonna put about 35 pounds pressure in here. You can hear the hissing. I'm gonna keep spinning this until we have no hissing. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more air. There you go. Once the hissing is stopped and you've got an inflated tire, you've changed your regular tire into a tubeless tire. So again, one of the hardest points of doing this is getting that rim to seed and getting the tape on there and making sure that no air is coming past that tape. But a little bit of patience will go a long way in this. And one of the little secrets that I can give you is at the valve stem here, you'll see a valve core. You can actually remove the core. And when you remove the core, well, you see some stands coming out there. When you remove the core, it allows for a bigger blast of air to go through if it's not seating well. So that you can remove the core, put it on, fire the air into the tire, plug it with your thumb once it's inflated and once it's taken its shape, and then screw it closed. This has been Gear Up. I'm Mike Stephen. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Mike Stephen, and this is Gear Up. Today we're going to talk about road bikes, but more in particular, we're going to talk about road bikes that go beyond just the road. So, what happens when on a regular road bike, the asphalt turns to gravel is you turn around. Well, there's a whole new category of gravel grinders and adventure bikes that are out there that are kind of new to the scene, and if they're not absolutely new, they've been reconditioned and there's been some changes done to them. So first off, we're going to go over this bike. This is a really unique bike that's a road bike, full-on, nice, fast, speedy road bike. So when you're on the pavement, there's definitely no negatives to it. It's going to pedal very efficiently, and it's going to move at quite a good speed. So if you're out there with your cycling club on a Tuesday night, you can actually keep up on a bike like this without any problem. Where the changes start to happen is up here in the head tube. If you take a look right here in the head tube, this guy's got the ability to absorb over top of bumps. So with the suspension on the bike being up here, you don't lose any efficiency in your pedaling, but you do gain a very comfortable, stable ride. If you look back in this area as well, you can see that the seat post is bolted from way down here. The reason why it's bolted from down there at that very low point is, if you can see this, see the seat flexing and the post flexing? This whole system is designed to flex. So why are both of these ends of the bike designed to flex like that? They're designed to flex like that simply because when you get into rougher terrain, you get rattled silly on a road bike. With this, the rougher terrain is eaten up by the suspension in the front and the back. The other thing that you're going to notice on a bike like this is that there's much more clearance up here at the fork blade. So there's a lot of clearance in here to be able to throw a wider tire or clearance for mud, gravel, all that kind of stuff. A bike like this, believe it or not, can handle quite a wide tire, similar to the tires that I'm going to show you on the next bikes. So if you want this to be a little bit even more so of a gravel bike, or maybe even a little bit of a light duty on a few trails and some gravel, you could actually make this bike pull that double duty. So I'm going to put this bike aside right now, and I'm going to bring out the next contender. The next contender that we've got, you're going to notice right away that the tires on it are a lot beefier. So the tires, being a lot knobbier and more aggressive, are going to give you the ability to handle more trail. This is a toned down cyclocross bike. And for those of you that don't know what cyclocross is, it's kind of a crazy event that people ride on pavement, turns to gravel. Then there's sections that are so aggressive of the gravel that you actually have to run. It turns into trail potentially. And there's sections that you actually have to pick your bike up, sling it over your shoulder and run. So the reason why I explain that is to show what this bike can handle. This bike can handle almost anything that you throw at it. It's obviously not designed to jump or anything like that, but it is designed for some trail use, to be able to take this very much so road bike looking machine into the trails, and it will handle them quite well. One of the things that you'll notice that's starting to become more and more common on these gravel grinders is disc brakes. So if you look down here at the disc brakes, very similar to what you have on your car, or very similar to what mountain bikes have been using for an awfully long time. So you have a lot better braking power than you ever did in the past on these gravel grinder type bikes. The next thing that you're going to notice on this guy is that you're going to start to pick up in terms of your width. We touched on it on the first bike. The width of the seat stays, the chain stays, and the fork blades are going to dictate how wide a tire you can use. And why is tire width important? Tire width is important for two reasons. One, the bigger the tire you use, the lower air pressure you can use, and it becomes a much more absorbing ride from your tires. So that when you run lower air pressure, all those rocks and roots and whatever else you might be going over top of are going to be absorbed more by the tire. A lot of the cyclocross riders out there are going to be actually riding tubeless because they run such a low air pressure they don't want to flat their tube. So next thing on this bike that you're going to notice is that the bike is still quite light. So with a cyclocross bike being targeted at cyclocross racing, it's still going to be a light bike, but can handle some off-road. We're going to go to the last one here, and this one's going to be more gravel grinder / adventure bike. So this bike kind of has a neat name, and it's called the AWOL. It's designed for going AWOL. You've had a tough day at work, you're ready to, the weekend has come and you want to pack up this bike with some touring bags and just take off for a couple of weeks. This bike has the ability to tour quite comfortably on pavement or onto dirt roads. What you're going to notice, a few of the features that make this bike quite comfortable, is the very tall head tube. The head tube area on this bike is quite tall, allowing you to sit more upright. And sitting more upright on the bike is going to give you the ability to straighten your lower back a little bit more, straighten up a little bit more, because if you're spending 8 hours on a bike, you probably don't want to be in this really piked low position. It is going to eventually tire your back out, shoulders and neck. So this bike's a little bit taller in the head tube. It has flared dropouts, which gives you the ability to have a little bit more comfort and a little bit more control on and off the road. You're going to look again at your up in your forks. You're going to have plenty of clearance here to run even a wider tire than what's being run here. So they're really focusing in this category, you can see on all of these bikes, on giving you lots of tire clearance, because it's probably going to be the biggest thing that will affect the difference in your ride, like give you a smoother ride or give you a faster ride. Those narrow tires that we saw on the first bike is going to give you an extremely fast ride. The wider, chunkier tires on these bikes and the cyclocross bike is going to give you a lot more comfortable ride. So the neat thing about this type of bike is that you can use it for commuting, you can use it for adventure touring, you can use it to jump onto the odd road ride. Again, the further you get from a serious road bike, the less you're going to want to race it per se on the road, but definitely still a very efficient bike to pedal on the pavement and at home in the gravel, at home on light duty trail. The reason why I like this bike so much is because it's got the ability to pack quite a bit of weight. You pay for that with a weight penalty on the weight of the bike, but the benefit of it is that it's made out of chromoly tubing. Chromoly tubing is virtually indestructible. It's incredibly strong and can handle heavy weight loads. So you can load this up with pannier bags, load it up with as much gear as you possibly want to carry, and you can go do some of those longer touring trips on a bike like this. Whereas you strip it down, and like I say, it's a great little commuter, a great little to and from work bike. You know what, hopefully I've demystified a little bit about gravel grinders and shown you that some of the road bikes out there that are still very efficient out on the road, they can be a little bit more fun and continue on where the pavement stops. So there's lots of rides that you can turn into loops and turn into a lot more fun rides instead of a there and back if you have a bike that can handle a little bit of gravel or a little bit of dirt. You know what, I hope you have a great time out there riding. This has been Mike Stephen with Gear Up.